Da 170 anni noi di Cassa Depositi e Prestiti investiamo il risparmio degli italiani nel domani del Paese. Noi di Cassa Depositi e Prestiti siamo con l'Italia, oggi più che mai. Da 170 anni noi di Cassa Depositi e Prestiti investiamo il risparmio degli italiani nel domani del Paese. Noi di Cassa Depositi e Prestiti siamo con l'Italia, oggi più che mai.
Buon pomeriggio a tutti.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This session belongs to the Development and Sustainability series, and we're going to look at a very fascinating and interesting subject, which is not always very well known, that is Africa and New Technologies. The title is Moving Forward into the Future, Africa and New Technology. Before introducing today's guests, I would like to say something about the idea behind this session. I'm Giacomo Ciambotti. I am a research fellow at Altis, the Catholic University of the Sacred Heart, and I collaborate with E4Impact Foundation, a network of African universities created by Professor Molteni in 2010 and then transformed into a foundation in 2015. E4Impact will be presented by our guest speakers and trains entrepreneurs that are committed in the community and in the society, creating a network of universities that can bring education to all the emerging countries of sub-Saharan Africa. So this session was organized around the passion and professionality of researchers like me, traveling to Africa many times. We go there to give seminars, so we are involved in education and to train entrepreneurs and to do research, academic research on the subjects of corporate management and strategies. And this encounter that we had with the African world fascinated us. And so we want to tell you something about this new Africa that shows great opportunities beyond the difficulties and challenges that the African world has to face still today. Africa has had an incredible technological development over the last few years, and there's many young people that are great force there, and we will have concrete experience mentioned later on, and they are able to deal with the problems characterizing African society, and that these young people create technological innovations to respond to new needs. Technology is at the center of today's session, and with the guest speakers that we have with us, we will focus specifically on this subject. I often travel to Africa, like other countries, in the E4Impact Foundation and in the Catholic University, Università Cattolica. And before introducing all the guest speakers involved today, I would like to mention the fact that we've realized that Africa has a wide range of countries, and there's many differences, but there is divergence that is most striking. This is a radical, extreme divergence. On the one hand, there is abject poverty, and there's difficulties at institutional level in terms of access to resources and due to corruption and conflicts that we know about through the news, through the media. But on the other side, there's also a part of Africa that has been growing exponentially in economic terms and also in demographic terms. Consider that according to UN data, African population will double by the end of the century, and there will be up to 4 billion people there. Of all this population, the average age is 19 years. So the average age is really, really low. It's young, and there will be many, many young people entering the job market in the years to come. In all this, technology plays a role, and consider that the first fintech was created in Kenya in 2007. It's called M-Pesa. We can also see an image of that. M-Pesa was created to respond to farmers' needs that needed to exchange money between different areas, rural areas of the African continent. M-Pesa then became a great multinational company. The picture is almost paradoxical. You see, we are at a slum in Nairobi, but at the same time, that's a technological system for message exchange and money exchange that has been successful all over the world and has been copied in many other companies which provide this service also in the developed world. The technological crisis can be perceived in African countries, and we want to discuss this. And finally, I would like to focus on 3 stories that we found fascinating and will be stimulating in the session. Felix Himaro, I had the honor to meet this person with the Total Help, a small startup created by a young lad from Nairobi that realized a big problem. He got a call from his mother telling him that his aunt died together with the 2 children, the 2 twins that she was about to deliver. And there's hundreds of children dying at birth. And so he wondered, how is it possible to have such a lack of healthcare facilities in rural areas? And so he developed this message service that it is possible to download on not just on smartphones, but also on the more rudimental mobile phones. And it's possible to trace medical information, having high quality of medical information, even in rural areas. There is another innovation, still from Kenya. I've met Oscar Agan, who is the creator of a new model of enterprise. He has the intuition that there is a big problem concerning youth unemployment. Many young people have difficulties to enter the job market because they don't have any skills, and they can't find anybody supporting them. And on the other hand, there's also the environmental problem with tons of plastic that are in the slums or in the poorest areas of the city. So Oscar established this small company called Corec that provides capacity building education to young people, jobless people that are marginalized or street boys, and these are integrated to organize small groups to pick up plastic and process plastic and to transform this into building material. We've seen many different cases that I wanted to share, and this one is another one. These colleagues invented the ATM of water to bring water in the poorest areas of Uganda. Strauss Energy is a very advanced technological startup. It's a very promising startup, and she invented this tile with a solar panel that can be built to create an energy system for housing and for the houses around it. So this way energy can be delivered to remote areas where very poor people live. It is easy to join these tiles and create an energy power system. We've been fascinated by these stories. These are technological stories with innovative startups, with young people that work hard to change their context. And for this reason, we have invited 3 guest speakers. First of all, let me introduce Professor Bitange Ndemo, Professor of Entrepreneurship at the University of Nairobi, who was also Undersecretary at the Ministry of Communication. He is member of the board of different communication companies in Kenya, and he is one of the most influential persons in the digital transformation scenario of East Africa. And he's also a reference point for many different organizations such as OECD, the United Nations, and so on. Then we have Miss Letizia Moratti. We all know her as a former Minister of Education, former Mayor of Milan, and today she's here as President of E4Impact Foundation. Thank you, Mrs. Moratti, for being here with us in this session. And then finally, we have also invited Mr. Cozzolino, who is a member of the European Parliament since 2014. And in particular, he is a member for the Committee for the Development of the Countries in the Maghreb. So he will give us some interesting information about the institutional development of Northern Africa. The first 2 speakers will focus more on sub-Saharan Africa. So without further ado, let's start our session, and I will start with the first question. So I will ask Professor Ndemo this. I have referred to these wide divergences that we see in Africa. In all the countries, we always have this perception. On the one side, there is extreme poverty and a lot of challenges because of corruption, weak infrastructure, and all the bad news that we get from the media. And on the other side, there is an explosion of life. There's so many young people that are leading to a great technological development. Thank you so much, Professor, for being here with us. So I would like to ask you, what is the role of technology in this economic, social, and environmental development of countries such as Kenya? What are you doing at a technological level, and what is the role of technologies in this? Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. It is true that Africa is faced with many problems, including the ones you just stated in your question. However, without going into past history, Africa's development and colonization, a lot is changing, and technology is playing a huge role. The continent missed the benefits of the first and second industrial revolution. The third industrial revolution, however, has helped Africa in many ways. From the internet to mobile, I think you mentioned M-Pesa, which has practically changed most African countries. Africa is witnessing unprecedented change. Internet, when I say internet, I talk about digitization, for example, in governments and in the private sector, has brought greater productivity in agriculture, health. You mentioned the total health, education, and even in the public sector, where we now benefit from e-government and many other products that are coming. Many African countries are beginning to leverage technology to offer better service, public services. Mobile has brought greater financial inclusivity. Lending has become easier to people. Almost 90% of mobile money is actually in Africa, with Kenya leading because it started in Kenya. Increasingly, we are witnessing greater product transparency as a result of social media. You talked about corruption, and in my view, in the next few years, because of the freedom that people have, you are going to see a lot more transparency, and plus the new technologies that are coming, which would give people a lot of voice. In some way, transparency is shaping old bureaucratic institutions. All of these technology-driven changes have led to economic development. Indeed, economists are now the narrative now is that Africa is rising, and what you are seeing mostly is actually service-led. And economists are saying, is Africa leapfrogging the industrialization and moving to the knowledge and service sector? So the fourth industrial revolution actually comes. I usually say this revolution is meant for Africa because most of the technologies like artificial intelligence, blockchain, IoT, data analytics are showing signs of for Africa's development, very good signs. Blockchain, for example, you can find many solutions in Kenya, for example, which are streamlining supply chains and linking them to global supply chains. Blockchain combined with AI, we have seen several solutions. For example, analyzing data to provide credit to entrepreneurs without collateral, which is now what I said, greater inclusivity. AI is driving customization of education, and we are seeing many young people accessing education where they would never have accessed because we didn't have systems of detecting that some children were autistic or had problems like dyslexia. All this is being sorted out with AI, and we are beginning many startups in that space. In my view, Africa will benefit from the fourth industrial revolution, and any other place, since there is just too many problems to solve. How do you? Okay, yeah, I would stop there.
Grazie professore.
Thank you, Professor. You've mentioned many interesting points that should be further developed, especially concerning young people's education. Mario Draghi, the former president of the Central Bank of Europe, mentioned that, and what has been said is that education will be one of the major engines for a relaunch of Europe. But what happens with young people in Africa? E4 Impact has been working for many years in African countries and working on high-quality entrepreneurial education that can also be practical education. So, Mrs. Moratti, I would like to ask you to tell us about this experience of E4 Impact. Could you please tell us about the activities of E4 Impact and about the factors that make education possible now in Africa? Thank you again for being with us today.
Thank you very much. It is always a pleasure for me to be here at the meeting and having the chance to exchange my ideas with other people in a very lively debate. We may say that the experience of E4 Impact stems from an attention being given during the work I was carrying out for the candidature of Milan for the Expo. Then in 2015, I was lucky enough to meet Mario Molteni, and I I concretely saw an experience that had just started in 2010 in Kenya with Professor Monteni. We then transformed this experience into a foundation, which sees the participation of industrial groups, but also people who are interested in focusing on education in African countries as a key for developing entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial skills in the African continent. You've already provided us with figures. I would like to add that in the African countries, we have 22% of entrepreneurship growth rate. Another important aspect is that the young people entering the job market and therefore considering the possibility to start a business are about 29 million per year. It's an outstanding figure. This led us to focus on the creation of a method, a working method, a platform which has been implemented in about 20 countries, from Eastern to Western Africa, from northern to southern countries of states of Africa. We started in Kenya, and then we continued to work in other Eastern countries, Tanzania, Uganda. Then we reached Western countries such as Nigeria, Senegal, then Cameroon, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and then we started to work in sub-Saharan countries such as South Africa, and then in northern African countries such as Egypt. 20 countries in which E4Impact, thanks to an innovative method, is training entrepreneurs. Our method is really innovative because it creates a business idea competition enabling young people to present their entrepreneurial ideas, and thanks to these ideas which were presented, a selection is carried out, and then for 1 year period, E4Impact provides an MBA which has a double validity, both at local level and in Italy. Over the past few years, we've trained more than 1,000 entrepreneurs, also considering the projects we developed thanks to the business accelerators in Cameroon, in Kenya. For instance, over 2,000 young people were awarded the MBA or a certificate because they developed these projects. And considering the supply chains of our companies, I can say we've created more than 10,000 jobs. You were talking about, well, you asked which factors lead to the success of entrepreneurship in the African continent. Well, I would say that we may focus on 3 factors. First of all, the profile of an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are supposed to have a lot of attention on wealth creation, but also on sustainability. So entrepreneurs who should avoid the mistakes made in the past in the Western countries, so being more attentive to sustainability, circular economy, this type of economy. Then the second success factor is partnership. Partnership with universities in Africa, so carrying out a joint work between Italian and African universities. And the third success factor is that of creating a link between European countries and African companies. E4Impact over the last few years has been developing a very practical project with the collaboration of Confindustria and the International Trade Center. And this project led to the creation of a platform which may be seen in the Confindustria's website. And as of today, we have about 200 companies owned by young people in Africa, 150 companies owned by Italian entrepreneurs. And over the last few years, they've created about 100 collaboration projects. If I still have some minutes available, I would like to mention 3 of these projects, which I think are very interesting. The first one is a company called OpenIT. It is based in Matera, a small-sized company. They've developed a satellite system, which is in contact with a Kenyan company called Lantera. They've developed sensors to understand when the weather is favorable for irrigating with several products the roses, which are a fundamental source of income for Kenya, so as to prevent roses being damaged by noxious insects. And this same project is now developing with reference to vegetables and fruits. Then there's another project, a division of CNH belonging to the FCA group. And thanks to E4Impact, they developed a collaboration with the university in Kenya. An interactive teaching farm was developed. And so these engines for irrigation were evaluated. They have an excellent yield, and so a company from Kenya decided to distribute these engines in the country. And then last but not least, another important initiative, a small business-sized company, producing mangoes. Mangoes, if they are not dried, they get rotten very easily and very rapidly. And so this product cannot be enhanced properly. We started a collaboration between this company and a group of entrepreneurs in Bergamo, located in Bergamo. They were launching a whole line of products, dried products, especially exotic fruits. And so a nice collaboration was developed with the distribution of this dried mango, both to Italy, and in the near future, these products will probably be distributed to other countries as well. So these are just 3 examples which show how much creativity and energy is there in the young people of the African continent. Thank you very much. Well, it is fascinating to have a different view vis-a-vis this continent. Africa was considered a black continent, an obscure continent, and it's nice and it's interesting to understand that so many initiatives are underway. So you've talked about collaboration. I would like to introduce Mr. Cozzolino, and I would like to ask him something about the point of view of the European Union. Which kind of collaborations were created at international level for the development of emerging technologies? Which collaboration directives and which cooperation directives and which cooperation initiatives are being developed between the European Union and Africa? Well, first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to have this exchange of ideas. Well, we try to describe the African continent in totally new forms. We normally talk about Africa touching upon other issues, whereas here we are focusing on very innovative issues, and I think we should deal more with this kind of topics. And I would like to take this opportunity to state that this kind of opportunity should be transformed into a more open comparison of ideas, a different comparison of ideas between the European Union and African countries. We are approaching an innovative topic. I've listened to very interesting things mentioned by Professor Ndemo and by Mrs. Moratti. Thank you for this opportunity. I would also like to add another thing. We are faced with a double challenge in this case. On the one hand, we have African young people who account for the majority of the young people for the future. So we are confronted with a demographic figure before dealing with political or economic aspects. This is a social fact. So we are dealing with building of societies in Africa. We do have the present and the future of the world's youth. This should be the focus of our attention. And then secondly, the second topic, as Professor Ndemo said, the technological and digital revolution is questioning the old organizations, and it is producing inequalities in society. And the young people are the protagonists, are the key players in this respect. I believe that the task for the European Union is to work so that these phenomena are not only ruled by market trends. There should be public institutions, such as the European Union institutions, able to accompany this kind of process, especially referring to three directions. Despite the revolution and the lively situation which has been described when it comes to innovative technologies, we still have quite a significant part of the population which is still marginalized from any opportunity to use these new technologies. So first of all, we deal with the right to be connected. So right to connection is a topic which does not only refer to Africa, it also refers to Europe. I believe that since a significant part of the world's youth is concentrated in Africa, I think we should guarantee, first of all, the right to be connected in Africa. So creating the conditions so that everybody can have access to these tools and to these technologies. The second topic is that of ensuring this kind of access thanks to the collaboration with public entities, public institutions and public entities. This is the second topic we should focus on. And then the use of technologies in a safe way. Another very important topic is that of guaranteeing security, guaranteeing safety. It is a very thorny issue both in Europe and also in emerging democratic institutions. It is a process which is underway. It is getting richer and richer year after year, but it is still a very fragile kind of topic. So safety when using technologies is a decisive topic for this continent as well, for Africa as well. So along these three lines, I imagine the line of action of the European Union, and maybe we can debate later on the fact that probably the vast majority of resources for the new planning period of structural funds of Europe will probably be put at the availability of African countries. Of course, we will have to make distinctions because Africa has lots of different problems. It is a very large continent, and problems are different according to the various areas of Africa. But I feel I can say that these are the three lines we should work on, taking advantage of the novelty of this kind of topic. Thank you very much for your contribution. I would like to go back to Mrs. Moratti with a second question on the future. So our session doesn't only deal with what happened in the past, we would also provide a prospect for the future. So I would like to ask you, which kind of future can you imagine for Africa and new technologies, and above all, which role would have to be given to the education and to the training of young people and training of entrepreneurs for the next few years? Thank you. Well, thank you. Well, I would like to say that education and technologies are intertwined. As the previous speakers said, I also think that the topic of the fourth industrial revolution, so new opportunities being granted by new technologies are extraordinarily important for the development of the African entrepreneurial system. While focusing on education, in Africa, well, E4Impact works with university education, so I would like to focus on university education. This is our topic. Well, the universities are not lacking in Africa. However, they have some weaknesses. So what are these weaknesses and how can we help filling these gaps? Well, I think that a first weakness is the quality of the of teachers, of faculty teachers. In many cases, they don't have a PhD, they do not carry out research projects, they are but they are not paid properly, and so they are forced to migrate from one university to another in order to have a sufficient wage to be able to have a decent life. So I believe that we should help developing the development and the training of the faculty professors. We as E4Impact introduce local teachers, local professors in all our courses, and this is a way to create and increase the human capital of and the quality of the African professors. Exchanges with other universities are also very important. I'm referring to exchanges of professors, grants, collaborations, which, however, should not take professors away from Africa. It is important to start collaborations which enable professors to remain or to return to their own countries. Another important point is that of collaborating in order to create a local-based PhD, and this relates to the first point, the point of quality of faculty professors. Another important point, which is already being developed by many universities, has to do with the commitment in the STEM area, creating the highest value professionalism. Many universities are already dealing with this topic. I think we should insist on this point. Also adding another topic, that of the agri-food sector, which is of vital importance for the African continent, and then sustainability. I believe that when it comes to sustainability, in Africa too, we can focus on the possibilities to reach development so that Africa does not make the same mistakes which were made in the past by Western countries. And so possibly Africa can develop with a specific and particular attention to sustainability. Another important point is the development of partnerships between African universities and universities located in other countries, such as in European countries. And we, as E4Impact, have tried to create an alliance and to develop a network, creating an alliance between 19 African universities. And this is the first big alliance of involving African universities so as to develop innovative ideas, evaluating educational models. So this is another important topic. Then another important topic is that of developing solutions, and so we get back to the importance of technology, solutions which are blended solutions. with teachers physically present, and also online courses. And we go back to the importance of new technologies and to the importance of the internet for the development of quality education in Africa. The last point is developing projects for educational training. These are also very important because without the experts, companies, businesses cannot be developed. So the African universities are thinking about this specific issue, and they are carrying out initiatives in this sense. The development of vocational training is also of paramount importance, and we may also go back to technologies because they are linked with vocational training when it comes, for instance, to new professions and new jobs such as digital marketing or the creation of new apps. Well, there are many jobs based on technology which are very important, which may play an important role, and which can help African companies develop. I would like to conclude by briefly mentioning the COVID-19 pandemic. We didn't talk about this up to now. However, it is an important topic. For Africa, COVID-19 led to losing about $65 billion, 2.5% of the GDP of African countries per month. So the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic were tremendous for Africa, not only when it comes to health and the victims, but also from an economic point of view. I think that this should push us to strengthen and to make more efforts so that this continent is equipped, for instance, with all the connections, facilitating, and we saw this in Europe and in Italy in particular, connections which facilitate, which makes it easier for people to work when only smart work is possible. So this is in this respect, I would like to urge European Union to implement project for connections as soon as possible for the benefit of the African continent. I personally saw some companies, and I would like to mention a couple of them. They were awarded a prize, the E4Impact prize, which has the name of my husband. Companies which were able to innovate their business. One young boy from Zimbabwe who established some clinics where people go to get medical assistance. He also developed a platform to give advice to all those people who were not able to move and to go to the clinics. Then another young boy from Sudan who established a company producing irrigation pumps, who managed to transform this product into ventilators to help COVID-19, people with COVID-19. So these are just a couple of examples. I would like to use them as a closure of my contribution, because this is a hope. This is a message of hope we are giving the whole world. This is a difficult situation for the whole planet, but we do have the possibility to help through new technologies and education and training. We have a chance to help entrepreneurs. Many entrepreneurs are highly skilled. They are able, and I personally witnessed this, they are able to create innovation and create products and services which are solutions for the real needs of the local people having contact with these local businesses. Thank you very much.
Visto che il tempo poi corre.
Time goes by so fast, so I would like to refer briefly to a couple of points mentioned by you and to Dr. Cozzolino concerning connections and partnerships. I would like to ask Professor Ndemo, who is an expert in entrepreneurship and also in the development of digital and technological systems of many countries in East Africa. I would like to ask you, Professor, what is the future development that we will have in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and what is the future for new technologies in Africa? Thank you.
Thank you. Already the private sector participation is at the forefront supporting entrepreneurship here. The number of technology hubs in Africa actually has risen tremendously in the past few years. They're churning out a lot of young entrepreneurs supported by venture capital from several countries, European Union, US. So there are several, and also from development institutions. In entrepreneurship in Africa, I usually tell people that God has been good to us because we normally say in entrepreneurship that if you flip the problem upside, you get a very viable enterprise on the other side. So any problem is an entrepreneurial opportunity for anybody. So Africa has a great future for anybody who wants to invest in it.
Passerei quindi...
We cannot hear you, Professor, unfortunately, so we go back to our colleague, Mr. Cozzolino, after solving this connection problem. So to Mr. Cozzolino, I would like to ask about the investments made by the EU in Africa and what is the prospect of these closer and closer partnerships between these two worlds, such as Europe and Africa. As you know, there is an open debate about a reconstruction plan of Europe, and Italy is part of this plan. We are referring to 750 billion euros. And then there is the community budget for the next 7 years, more than 1,000 billion euros. And more than this budget, we are reforming international cooperation policies, not by adding new tools, but concentrated into one single tool, the Initiative of Europe. I'm just referring to the budget of the European institutions, so 1% of the European GDP. Then there's the national budgets, there is the private initiative, and there can be great savings in Europe with respect to the investments in Africa. So the resources I'm talking about are part of a wider plan that concerns the comprehensive European initiative of EU institutions, of member states, of financial markets that collect private savings that are all oriented to investing in Africa. In particular, as regards the budget, we will have a single fund, about 30 billion euros of this fund, which is about 70 billion euros, about 30 billion euros will be dedicated to Africa and will be used to implement all the initiatives that we've been mentioning so far: digitization, environmental projects, and fight against poverty. These resources will have to be used over the next few years. Was listening to Mrs. Moratti very carefully. We should really think about some of the points that she raised. I think that the response from Europe was right, but we cannot just isolate inside the European fortress. So the COVID situation should also push for new response, and also the resources that we are discussing should come to terms with reality. We will have to consider what is going to happen in the next few months and consider the effects on the African society, on the African economy. If we have data already available, where we should think about extraordinary measures that Europe should make available, that's without any doubt, because this is an enormous challenge that cannot be solved just by defending the interests of European citizens. The European fortress season is over, and we have to enter a new stage of friendship and collaboration with other continents. And part of our future will be decided by what happens in Africa. So all the things that have been mentioned today here should be considered very carefully. You know that there is an innovative tool that has been created in Europe over the last 30 years. I'm talking about the Erasmus exchange program. It concerns a small part of European students' population. We are trying to expand and create collaborations, for example, starting with Northern Africa, with young people from Maghreb, and do something like the Erasmus program, do some collaboration. They come here, we go there. So having greater capacity of establishing relationships. We have to see whether this experience can produce a positive effect, starting with the Northern Africa, for example, Tunisia and Algeria. We will extend this experience to Morocco, and we look forward to collaborating with the universities of Libya. That would be really, really important for the recovery process, the reconstruction process of this country. So we try to think of the Erasmus exchange programs, even in terms of young entrepreneurships. We want to create specific Erasmus programs to facilitate greater collaboration on the basis of the experience that you've already had and that Letizia Moratti has mentioned. So these are the general features of the European presence, the European initiative, and I think that over the coming months it will be fair to have to pay special attention to the effects of COVID, not just in terms of health problems, but also in terms of economic issues and initiatives not to leave Africa alone. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yesterday, the president of the Foundation for Subsidiarity, Giorgio Vittadini, called for collaboration, and even with more complexity, it is necessary to work together. And Africa is not far away. It is a reality that is very close to us. So thank you very much for your comment. Let's go back to Professor Ndemo. Now the connection should work. So Professor, you was talking about the technological ecosystem and investments in Africa. I would like to take the opportunity to ask you a question that the audience sent us. That is, what are the developments and opportunities do you see in the field of artificial intelligence in Africa? Thank you.
Yes, let me answer broadly, then I can get close to the AI question. Already, actually, there are several collaborations. If you look at the number of startups or the hubs that have been created throughout Africa, the numbers are rising. And we are seeing venture capital from Europe and as well as US. We are very happy with that. And I keep on telling people that in entrepreneurship, if you flip the word problem, the other side is opportunity. And so I usually say God has been great to Africa, that we have so many problems that anybody who wants to come and solve any one of the problems, it becomes a great opportunity in entrepreneurship. As we get into the fourth industrial revolution, this is where the most opportunities are going to come from. They are coming from there because if you look at the first wave of technology, which was internet, it's only America which played a big role. That's how you came to see search engines like Google and others. Then when we moved to mobility, it's the US and China has to squeeze themselves into that. We have now moved into what we call the blockchain technology wave, which has so many opportunities, and we haven't seen much coming out of Europe. We haven't seen much coming out of Africa. We are actually testing so many solutions, especially in AI. I said earlier that the startups that you are seeing would change education forever, because most of the countries still have the industrial format of education. The Kenyan government changed into what we call competence-based, which is mostly AI, which can easily assess and then deliver education through what they call adaptive learning. And then, of course, before you get to AI, there is machine learning, there is also data analytics. We are beginning to see a lot of work in analytics before you get to at the AI level. So machine learning and developing languages in such a way that we don't have to speak English so that the Italians can understand me. We can translate Italian directly, and these are the opportunities which have not been exploited. But what you've been hearing most is driverless vehicles, but we have several opportunities which needs to be exploited by young people and create solutions which are real. And blockchain, we can't finish the opportunities there. I'm saying this because I am not a prophet, but in the next 5 years, most of the currencies would be stable cryptocurrencies. Those are opportunities which you have not understood, but you can see Facebook has seen opportunities moving into that space. Some of the bigger social media sites are moving into that space. So I would urge that any partnerships, collaborations we must do between Europe and Africa, we need to come into that space before that space is dominated by either China or US.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor, for these forward-looking recommendations. I hope that we are all able to understand the usefulness and the value of what you've mentioned. Thanks to Mrs. Moratti and Mr. Cozzolino for your time and for the content that you've shared. You've helped us getting closer to the African continent and to understand that at the center of technological development, there is also a strong need to have infrastructure that also have an educational aim. Higher education has been mentioned, partnerships between Europe and Africa have been mentioned. This partnership will have to be more and more at the center of the debates. So I'd say that the prospects are intriguing and interesting. So once again, thank you very much for having participated in this session. I wish you all the best in your activities. Professor Ndemo in Kenya, Mrs. Moratti and Mr. Cozzolino, I wish you all the best for your future institutional commitments, and I would like to say goodbye to all of you who've been watching this session. Thank you.
Da 170 anni noi di Cassa Depositi e Prestiti investiamo il risparmio degli italiani nel domani del Paese. Noi di Cassa Depositi e Prestiti siamo con l'Italia, oggi più che mai. Da 170 anni noi di Cassa Depositi e Prestiti investiamo il risparmio degli italiani nel domani del Paese. Noi di Cassa Depositi e Prestiti siamo con l'Italia, oggi più che mai.